So I believe Erik Leach with MARTA did join us. I believe you're on the call, right, Erik?
I am, and I'm trying to get my video to start, but it's not cooperating in any way, shape, or form.
That's okay. Thanks so much for being on with us.
That's good.
And
Lucky you don't get to see my face, so let's keep it that way. Much better.
great. So Erik is going to be talking to us about the upcoming or in progress, the station renovation projects that are going on at, I think pretty much all the stations will be renovated in some form or fashion. And so we wanted to bring this to you because that's one of the main things. You guys know we work a lot to promote transit ridership. And so we think it's important to let you guys know what's going on with them. So I will just tell me when to skip to the next slide, and it's all yours, Erik.
Sure, you can jump on into the next one. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for letting me come in and give you kind of a brief overview of what we're doing here at MARTA. So we started a program about 2 years ago, back with most of current management. And what they did is they wanted to go through part of Amendment 15, but overall, the stations are starting to hit 40 years old. And we know they're not looking super great. So we decided a couple of years ago, let's start putting some funding together and really do a complete renovation of the stations. So we recognize our patrons see this every day, and they've been seeing it for 40 years in most cases. I mean, some of the stations on the North and Northeast line are about 20 years old, so they're starting to see it too, but the East, West, and South lines are 40 years old. So we recognize that we have to really make a change to the station, not just the pressure washing and the painting, but getting into the forward-facing public areas and change them and give them a new facelift and try to make them something that will last for the next 40 years. So that was the original intent of the program when we started out, and this was pre-COVID when we started. So the funding that we had was a tremendous amount of money. As we moved forward into the program, funding started to get obviously smaller and smaller. So we reduced the scope of the program and we got back to the pressure washing and the painting, but we're looking forward now with a lot of federal dollars coming into the program to try to maybe, reinstitute what we thought about 2 years ago and really taking the program to a different level. So that's where we are right now. We are actually looking at 7 stations in our first wave. And if you could change the slide, we'll take a look at the overall schedule. So we're looking at some of the ideas of foundation repairs and ceiling upgrades and all the kinds of things we see in the station, things that we know our patrons see every day. So it's not behind the scenes, it's really what you see. Some of our stations, we have the tiles in that picture on the right there, that's actually College Park. We know that they're popped up. You see cones all over there. It's like a little field of cones. That's because of all the tiles that are missing. So we recognize they have to be replaced. We know the stations look dirty. Pressure washing, I've had many people clap when I've said pressure washing on other presentations I've done. But we want to change the station and really make it look different. So what you see on the screen was where we were about 1.5 years ago of the basic scope of work that our MARTA architecture department has gone through and look at the stations, just really trying to make it look cleaner and better, but still the same station that has been there for 40 years. So if you could forward the slide, we have started to really look at all the stations and we put them in sort of a relatively decent order. If you see, it's kind of hard to tell. This is an eye chart to kind of test you. I've highlighted the 2 stations that you will focus on the most, I'm sure, which is Lenox and Buckhead. The first wave at the top of the page is our first 7 wave of stations. We looked at the stations for a couple of reasons. One was the need. So if you see most of those stations, they're really in the East, West, or South, except for maybe Arts Center, which is there was a need by, we have to make sure we touch all of our patrons, meaning we have Fulton, we have DeKalb, and we have City of Atlanta. So we have to make sure that we spread the happiness to all of our primary patrons, along with the people who ride, but also the ones that have the most need based on their conditions. So that's how we've initialized that first wave. The remaining waves that you see cascading through down to wave 9, that was sort of the same thing. What's their condition? And making sure we're spreading the love evenly amongst all the different agencies. But we're looking at revamping the wave 2 through 9 potentially. We have Amendment 15 requirements. We also have other needs. We have political needs. We've actually had other people step forward. We've had CIDs and other entities step up and say, hey, if you could match what we're proposing to do around your station with what we're doing in the next year or so, we'd be able to some really nice things at the station that we'd like to see. So we've been kind of shuffling the deck a little bit for waves 2 through 9, but based on need right now is our biggest goal. if you could change the slide, please. So this is a zoom into the first wave of stations. And you can see we have Indian Creek College Park, HE Homes, Arts Center, 5 Points, Lenox Airport, and East Lake Pedestrian Bridge. So it is 7 stations and an extra little add-on there of the pedestrian bridge. So really it's the conditions on the stations. If you've ever gone through any of these stations, our 5 Point station is our heavily used station with most patrons transfer through it. So that's going to be one of our biggest goals. That, along with a separate project that we have called Transformation, which is sort of the upstairs. The station rehabilitation will be doing the downstairs. But more specifically, I know your focus is Lenox. Lenox is a station that if anybody's ever ridden through it, it rains on you because of all the roadway that is over the top of the station and all of the different joint work from the main walkway that we have between the 2 center entrances of the station. We are looking at waterproofing the entire station before we do any renovation work. So that has changed our schedule a bit. So the schedule you see here, you see a date of August. I actually have a new schedule that's going to be changing everything. So those dates have slid a little bit, but we're actually putting a lot of effort into waterproofing the station first, because what's the point of making a station look nice with new lighting and wall if it's raining on you? So we're gonna address that first. If you could change the slide, please. So I wanted to give you all kind of a general overview of this idea of a concept that we brought into the program, probably the first year in, of good, better, best. When we started, we basically had our base scope of work, which I showed you in the earlier slide, which was really pressure washing and painting and just simple stuff, taking an old station and looking at making it look clean. As we worked with the design teams, and the design teams that we have 6 A&E firms that are private firms that we've hired on, along with 4 CMAR or construction managers at risk. So we have all outside firms doing the designs for us. And so they're working with us as directly hired, but they're extensions of our team. So we have an in-house A&E full staff of engineers and architects, but these outside firms are working like they're an extension of us, but we're letting them have sort of a blank canvas and recreate the stations and do something nice with it. So as we've gone through the iterations of design, having our budgets decimated through COVID, we got our base budgets down to that $5 to $7 million or something we called good. With $5 to $7 million, you can't do a lot. So when you have your scope of work of pressure washing and painting, that actually eats up a lot of the $5 to $7 million. So what we said is we started to get influx of federal dollars. We thought, well, what if I told my designers to concept out a good, better, best? So taking your budget of 5 to 7, and then a better being 10 to 15, and a best of 20 to $25 million, come back to me and show me some really cool color renderings of what you could do with the CMAR partner. Now, the CMARs actually work with the A&Es right from the beginning of design. So it's a partnership right from the beginning with MARTA sort of overseeing everybody. So that's why the contractor can never say, I didn't know what was behind that wall, because he's actually doing the investigation for the A&Es. So it's a great partnership that we haven't done before at MARTA. So this is also a first for MARTA, where we're doing the CMAR construction. So everybody being a partner, everybody has some onus in the game, and it really makes the money stretch a lot longer. So that's kind of the idea. The A&Es and the CMARs work together to come up with a good, better, best concepts, and then they show it to us, and we go through the dollars. So I wanted to focus, go ahead, you can change. We can focus on Lenox Station. So Lenox is one of the stations that has been, like I said earlier, a little bit delayed because of the fact that we had the waterproofing, which really wasn't part of the original rehabilitation. It really is a maintenance item. And over the years, we've been trying to address it. And I'll say it this way. MARTA has been here for 41 years, and we are excellent at keeping things state of good repair. Bubblegum and duct tape. We do an amazing job of keeping our stuff running. Now cleaning, and we're okay, we can get better, we know that. And that's what this program is to do, is to try to make it a lot better. So if you could forward the slide. The station itself, we know, has a lot of glass. I wanted to say, we do our best to try to keep this glass together. It is 40 years old. You can see from all the different angles of the station, the 2 ends of the station and the walkway between, there is a lot of panes of glass. And we know that a lot of that's running in the station. So that was something that we've been trying to address it for years. But other than a full complete replacement, the budgets of that being upwards of tens of millions of dollars, we've never had that budget to actually do it. So now with this program, if you could forward the slide, we're actually looking at actually addressing all the problems that we have within the station. So as you look at the different pictures in the slide, you can see a lot of water intrusion that is actually starting to grow green moss here and there on some of the structural elements. And you can still see a lot of the light, the natural light that comes into the station, a little bit of the artwork along the trackway. So we're going to address all of these. So between the glass around the station and the roadway above, which has a lot of water intrusion too, we're going to spend, the current budget is $8 million is what we're looking to do just to stop it from getting water in the station. After that, we are keeping our budgets for the good, better, best of the 5 to 7 and the 10 to 15 and the 20 to 30. So right now we haven't gotten into the good, better, best. We are right now in the beginning stages of that. That's why I want to kind of preface that you guys understand what we're doing and that we're a little delayed that because we've been focusing on waterproofing. So I don't have really cool color renderings to show you specifically for Lennox but I will show you other stations to give you an idea of what may come from Lennox. So if you could forward the slide.
Erik, who will you be engaging with locally as you get into the design for the better and best?
So typically what we do is we work with anybody who comes to the table. We talk to municipalities, we talk to the counties and the cities and anybody around us. And if there are any CIDs, we'd love to invite them along to see if they have any input to it or if they want to actually contribute or change. And we've had a lot of interest for a lot of different CIDs and local municipalities. College Park has had a huge interest to come and actually they hold events at our station. And they would like to have a lot of sit down with us and come up with some ideas. They've hired outside A&E firms to come up with color schemes and artwork within our station. And we do have an in-house art and transit department that actually is going to put additional artwork at the station. So we work with anybody who wants to work with us. We try to reach out like with your group. Our external affairs department basically reaches out to my group and I'm the director of the project management office. So as you can tell, I'm probably not very good at addressing people. I've been doing it for a couple of years, so I'm getting better. But we are going to work with anybody. The biggest thing for me is knowing who do I need to reach out to? And that's where I'm working with my marketing and my external affairs department to say, this is what we're doing. Who should I talk to? And so they set me up and say, go talk to this group. And I go, okay. And that's kind of why I'm here today.
Awesome.
So
definitely keep us on your list for working with you on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we would love to have some input on it to give everybody the general idea of what we're doing. And I will say our A&E partners, and I will show you one example later on, are doing an absolutely phenomenal job of our good, better, best. So to give you some of the ideas of what I see talking to our current A&E partner, we are doing this at other stations within the first 7. We have potential wall coverings, and wall coverings meaning if we have currently a concrete wall, we may do some type of new type of tile or a material that will change the color of the wall completely. It will not be the gray, it might be red, it might be blue, something completely different. Artwork. We have our art in transit. We are working with them to give them wall space, floor space, canopy space over the walkway that you can see on the right to actually hire local artists to come in and represent the neighborhood around us to try to do artwork that represents what is this station. This station is Lennox, what's around us, and put artwork in the station to really reflect who is in the neighborhood. Reflective ceiling materials. At our 5 Point station, if everybody's been through there, if you kind of look up, the old concrete that has the lighting that kind of reflects up, it doesn't do it as well anymore. There's a lot of soot and dirt. And so we are looking at reflective material, ceiling materials to help bring the light down into the station using LEDs, so reducing our electric footprint, but still giving the light that you need to be in the station. And landscaping around the station, we have lots of places along the station that can get new, better landscaping that looks nicer and it's easier to maintain than a lot of the overgrown beds that you see at the station. So that's just a couple of items. I know once we give it to our A&E partners, they'll come up with a lot of other things. And if there's outside influence that have ideas, we welcome it completely and totally. So next slide, please. So Buckhead, as you saw on the earlier slide, Buckhead is in our 8th wave. And the 8th wave, if I remember correctly, is like 28. So it's quite a couple of years out. And the reason being is we've addressed Buckhead. Next slide, please. We put the new bridge in a couple of years ago and made the connectivity to the station better. We know it's not perfect, but it's best what we have right now. We know there's a lot of entities around us that would like to see some changes to the station here and there, and we're going to look at that. But right now, as the staging goes with Buckhead, because we've addressed the station more recently, it's still got a lot of life in it. It still will have heavy cleaning as part of our ops department. They will go out and clean the station at least once a year. We try to get it more often, especially now with COVID. We have different teams going out and cleaning the station to try to keep it safe. but we expect to probably not really touch the station until probably the later waves, because it is in good structural and physical shape around the station. But once it comes, you can see some of the initial scope of work that MARTA has put together is sort of a similar across the board. It's lighting upgrades and some paver replacements here and there, wayfinding signage throughout every station is going to have new signage. We're currently working with an outside vendor that does marketing for companies all around Atlanta and the whole country to come up with a new sort of look for MARTA, not change the logo, but change our signs. I'm sure if you've looked at our signs and the fonts and the colors, they're very 70s. So we're actually working right now to change all our wayfinding signage and also the looks of the signs throughout all of our stations, so you can find yourself through the station easier and actually look a little more like today as opposed to 1970s. Not knocking the 70s, but hey, you know, let's kind of come step into the 2000s at least. Pressure washing new artwork, or the existing artwork to be cleaned and brightened, and actually add more artwork to the station. That's typically our MO for the initial scope, that 4 to 7 million. But I expect Buckhead probably will get a little bit more of that, and I'm sure we'll have the A&Es fighting to be able to have this station. Next slide, please. So good, better, best. I wanted to give you sort of an idea of what we're doing at other stations, and these pictures you see here. I've been kind of asked by upstairs management not to share all the cool stuff with you guys, and not to hold it back. But again, these are all conceptual. They've not been formalized yet, but I wanted to at least kind of give you a little taste of what we're doing at other stations. So for example, the photo on the right has that reflective ceiling of that white ceiling. So you might be able to guess where that station is. The photo to the middle with all the colors, that's one of our stations that's going to have a lot of artwork. So that kind of might give you an idea. That upper left image is a completely revamp of a station that today looks so 1970s. It needs that complete amazing change to it. So I can give you a couple of these, and then we'll jump into the next slide. We'll give you a specific station example. So this is Indian Creek. We call this a front door. If you think about it, airport is our biggest front door. That's where anybody coming to Atlanta for the first time sees MARTA. So when you get on MARTA at airport, which I'm sure everybody has transferred through there at one point, you kind of look around and go, ooh. So when we recognize that, we actually started a program 2 years ago to completely renovate the entire station, top to bottom, completely and totally gutting it and coming in with a brand new. So it wasn't considered a renovation, but an enhancement, totally changing it. It's actually part of my program now, but it's a separate animal on its own. So what we've done is that one is sort of a just rip it apart and put it together. Indian Creek is a front door station where if someone lives outside the area to the east or the west, sort of Indian Creek and HE Homes, they come to that station for an event in town. If they're going to go to a Falcons game or Atlanta United or any event that's in town, they will drive to that station, get on the train, and ride into the city from that point. So we count this station as a really major patron coming into the station as far as the volume. Just like airport is and Flight Point is, these front doors are key to all of our patrons coming in. So you can see our existing conditions. Yeah, it's the baby blue tiles from the 70s. We do have some beautiful architectural elements out there. We have the stone walls throughout the station with the steel artwork. We have a barrel roof that actually is a wooden roof from the underside with a copper patinaed on the outside that protects it. Yes, it's very brutalist architecture of a lot of concrete element to it. So we're going to go through, these were the original ideas that the MARTA architecture team is the basic simple renovation and a buswood repaving, and kind of go through some artwork and lighting. And so we asked our A&Es, what if I gave you a good, better, best? Next slide, please. So what they did is they came through and said, we want to completely transform the station, still keeping a lot of the elements of the station itself, but updated. So they want to add a lot more LED lighting to it to actually brighten it. That main walkway that you can see in that upper left-hand corner, that's an evening shot. That walkway exists. It's just not defined really well. So our architecture partner has said, I'm going to define that as the places enter our front door. That's your front walk to your front door. He's going to have LED bars embedded into the walkway that traverse all the way to the front door. He will line that walkway with the LED lighting that you see in the bottom middle. There will be certain areas along the way that you can see in the left picture with the red that will be pickup or drop-off areas along that walkway that will be highlighted with that bright red to it. As you come into the station, you'll see that LED bar in the next picture to the left in the middle. That brings that bar directly through the fare gates and right to the stairwell case that brings you downstairs to the platform. And we're playing with the idea. You can see the colors are a little bit of red, a little bit of orange. We're still trying to judge what colors we want to do with it. But we're starting getting to that finalization of the good, better, best. More recently, we talked to our DeKalb County officials that sit on our board and also represent DeKalb. And they've talked to us about connectivity to the station. To the north of us, there's actually an active adult community and over 300 single family homes. We are getting ready to look at possibly expanding the scope to build a bridge over our platform and connective walkway to those residents behind us. So they're less than a mile from us. They could walk, but they have to drive their car because there's no easy access into the station. So we actually, in 1974, when the station was originally designed, there is actually a bump out in the back of the entrance of the station that was meant to have a bridge and a walkway connected in the future. Well, this is the future. So this is what we're looking at, is making better connectivity to the stations, not just making everybody have to drive to the station. And Indian Creek is a very difficult station. There's only a couple entrances to get into the station off the highway and from local roadway. Next slide, please. So part of the rehab is we have a very defined looking inside the station, but we also have some items that are part of the station and around the station that we designed in-house to try to get them going quicker, because we know the need is tremendous by our patrons. So we have a bunch of things called early work packages. So while we have the station rehabilitation program, we have some projects embedded in with them. So these early work packages were designed by the MARTA infrastructure team, and they've gone through and they've looked at a couple of things. We have public restrooms, which we actually call the SMART program. We have a wayfinding signage, as I discussed earlier. We're going to change all our signs. And we have a lot of bus loops that actually have a lot of problems. As you can see, the upper left-hand corner at HE Homes, it's a large sinkhole, and I call it the bomb crater. We've watched buses traverse that every day, and it's sad how slow they have to go through. Next slide, please. So, smart restroom program. We, about a year and a half ago, we deployed 4 of these out in the system to see how they would work. Basically, what it is a completely renovated restroom for patrons that is easy to clean. Everything is non-touch within the bathroom. You can see those in the lower right corner. Those blue lights are actually hand sensors. So if you want to dispense toilet paper, you wave your hand in front of it and it will dispense the paper. At the sink station, as you put your hands into the sink, you can wave under the soap, it'll dispense soap, and it will turn on the water. So there is no touch anywhere in here unless you have to, like a grab bar or the physical handle. But all the items inside the bathroom do not have to be touched. Everything is a stainless steel fixture. The floors are all tile, as you can see. All good elements that are easy to clean. The station, the inside the bathroom, we're actually toying with the idea of having automatic spray nozzles in the bathroom. And the way we keep the bathrooms clean also is in the upper left corner, you see a sign that says toilet. In the middle of that, there's actually a camera and a push button. We have a live operator on the other end of the camera that basically asks for your breeze card, and they only allow one person in the restroom at a time. In the past, we've had issues with parties going in the bathroom and having parties. And that's when we have to deploy maybe an officer or a station agent and take them away from their daily duties to go deal with what's going on in the bathroom. So with this, we found that this has been very effective because most people don't know, well, there's a camera at the door. No, there's no cameras in the bathroom. I can absolutely promise you that. We will not do that. But we also make sure that if something goes on, if more than one person pushes in, we can then deploy an officer or a station agent to kind of correct the issue and let them go do what they have to do. So this has worked very well. So now what we're doing is we're actually rolling it out to every station in the system. You can see we've got the first couple stations on the list that are actually going into construction now. They'll start construction at the end of February, which are the Indian Creek, East Point, Doraville, HE Homes, and Mercedes-Benz. Yes, Lennox and Buckhead are kind of out there, but we may, as I said, we may revamp the program since we're already addressing Lennox now. We've been discussing pulling it up into the project as we start to do the renovation. So Lennox may become a little bit sooner. It's just changing in the schedule. Buckhead will probably be done at the same time that we actually address the station. Next slide, please. Wayfinding signage. If any of you have ever been in 5 Points, and I'm sure someone has tried to navigate 5 Points, I've been here with MARTA for 10 years. I still get lost going through 5 Points. Yes, that's sad, but it is true. The signage is not super great. So what we're doing, as I said, is we've actually have an outside architecture firm that does a lot of marketing, and for other, like Coca-Cola is one of their clients. So they're going to help us make our signs look a lot better, a lot newer, and we're going to deploy them at every station, making things easier to find, better to see. As you can see in some of those photos, we have some of our own instruments blocking signs in that corner, picture on the right there above the artwork. That's actually an antenna for Wi-Fi in the station for the public. They put it right in front of the signs that say buses. And we have CCTV cameras that are also blocking signs. So we're gonna correct those problems throughout the station so that everybody can see our signs. So we'll take down signs and replace them with new, better materials, longer lasting, easier to clean, and much better locations. Obviously, not behind antennas and things like that. Next slide, please. And the bus loop paving, not exciting, no, but it does make a difference to our operators and our patrons. We're going to rip out at these first 3 stations all of the concrete bus loop paving, which, by the way, is 12 inches thick with wire weave in it. If anybody knows how that is, that's as much as some of the landing strips of Hartsfield-Jackson. But so for some reason, some of them break up, and we're going to go out and rip them out and find out why and put them all back. So that actually just makes our bus operators happier and the patrons that ride in the buses happier because it's a much smoother ride. Next slide, please. So with that, I've reached the end, and I thought I'd slide this one more in. This is another one of our concepts of our HE home station. This is actually the one that is being brought before our C-suite and GM for approval. So to give you, again, I was told I can't show a lot, but at least I'm trying to show what I could. This is the station at HE Homes. If any of you know what HE Homes looks like, it's a 1970s, it's our largest physical station. It's a 1970s big brown station. The A&E firm and CMAR partner have done an amazing job on this, and we are looking to seriously come up with the funding to make this happen. And there's a lot of partners around us that we're going to have soccer in the streets at this station. We also have the iVillage that's at this station. So we do have a lot of surrounding people who want to invest in it and help out. So that's why we're trying to make this really our front door. And we're looking to do this at other stations as we go forward. So with that, I open it up for any questions.
Thank you so much, Erik. I don't see any questions in the chat box, but if anyone does have questions, please feel free to speak up now.
I actually had one quick one. Are you focused at all on sustainability or energy efficiency or solar with any of the modifications?
Absolutely. So we've just completed a program called ESCO, or energy savings. We've replaced all of the lighting in every station with LED lights. Some of them were just straight up bulb replacements. They're okay. They do throw some light, and we know it's an energy savings overall, but we're going to go back and look at the fixtures themselves. We use the same old fixtures and put in bulbs. We're going to change the fixtures out and still meet or exceed the amount of energy savings that we've done with that first program with ESCO as we go through each station. And as far as solar, we've actually tossed around the idea, which I think a lot of everybody would like, taking some of the parking lots that we have and putting a solar canopy over it, feeding the power back into the station, and actually shading patrons' cars. So when you park your car at a MARTA station, it'll be under the solar canopy so that it's shaded during the hot summer days in Atlanta and still put power back into the station. So that's something that we've started to take a look at. So yeah, absolutely. We're looking at materials. 5 Points, we've had a lot of positive and some negative of the red tiles downstairs that we're going to be removing. We're probably going to reuse those in some of the artwork that we're going to do on some of those walls. And so we're not looking just to create piles and piles of trash. We're trying to find ways of reusing a lot of the materials from the stations, because we know there are a lot of people that actually love those red tiles down in 5 Points. So we're going to keep a bunch of them and try to reuse them when we can. So yeah, we're always looking for ways. We've also had some of our, we're looking at doing some of our new roofing. We're having some roofing issues, of course, for water intrusion. We're talking about possibly reclaim for the restrooms, if we can do it, doing purple water. So we're always looking at some way to do it as best we can within our budgets. And that's our biggest thing. Is we started the program at $650 million. Through COVID, it's been reduced to 350, which still sounds like a lot, but when you divide it by 38 stations, it's not as much as we need. You know, our budgets right now are about 5 to 7 million. We are looking at some of the stations, like for this particular example you see here on the screen for HE Homes, this is at $32 million. So to go from 7 to 32, I have to scrape the program as a whole to see where I can find that shortfall. So we're working on it. And that's why we know what we need to do. It's a generational project. And I and my team have this one shot to make these changes to the stations that will last for the next 40 years.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Eric. That was, well, we're very excited to see all of the station renovations over the next 10 years. And we do have to move on, getting great praises in the chat box. And so we really appreciate your time with us today and for showing us everything. And we'll definitely be bringing you in again to get updates on these. And so we appreciate your time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Eric.